Hi guys, Alex here back again, and this is just going to be a short video. If you watched my video the other day when I was sat outside on the patio in the sunshine, then you'll know that I got a couple of things in the post that I showed to you, and one of them was this, the 2009 stereo remaster of the Beatles' White Album. And so yeah, I've had a few days to put it on my iPod, absorb it, and really gauge an opinion on what I think about this album. And yeah, I just wanted to put up a kind of impressions thing on what I think about this, what I think about this album, whether I like it or not. So I'll get on with it. A little bit of background on the White Album. Of course, this was recorded and released in 1968 to pretty much critical reception as far as I know. I don't know that for sure, but pretty sure it was well received. And I know a lot of it, the majority of it was written in India, when of course the Beatles took a trip to India in 1968 as a little bit of a spiritual journey. They may have met with Ravi Shankar, and of course George Harrison was friends with Ravi Shankar, and he was big on the whole Indian influences as well back then. So yeah, they took that trip to India and wrote the majority of the material for this album. So this was the album that kind of resulted from that trip, and released originally as just simply the Beatles, as was embossed there on the front, as it would have been on the original. And but very early on it was dubbed the White Album, and that name has very much stuck and has made it very iconic for the plain white cover, obviously. And if you're lucky enough to own a first pressing of this, then especially if you have a low number, then chances are you've got a very valuable record. I mean, the first four Beatles got the first four numbers, and then the number 5 copy I think went for something like £10,000 or $10,000 on in an auction. So yeah, it became also very famous for the kind of rarity and the whole numbering thing surrounding it. So yeah, I'm not lucky enough to own it on vinyl at this time, unfortunately. So yeah, I have to say my expectations for this album were slightly lower than say they were for Sgt. Pepper or Revolver when I first heard those albums. Simply because the snippets I'd heard of this kind of sounded like a bit of a mess to me. I don't know if it was the audio quality or just the songs I heard, but it didn't sound like a cohesive album to me. But hence that really made me want to experience this as an album and as a whole, and hence why I bought this stereo remaster. And I have to say it surpassed all of my expectations by an absolute mile. I really am enjoying listening to this, and I was right about it not being as cohesive as some of their earlier stuff, but the kind of mash-up nature of it results in some a great variety of different kind of tracks and types of songs, and that's what I really love about this. I mean, as you can hear in the background, a really up-tempo, electrifying song. I think this is Yeah Blues, but there's also some really mellow, down-tempo stuff that is really great as well. So yeah, maybe one of their slightly harder to understand albums, but very, very interesting, very entertaining to listen to. Some really funny stuff on this album. And I think I originally compared this to the Basement Tapes, if I remember rightly, the other day. Kind of taking that statement back a little bit now, though, because I can see certain parallels between this and the Basement Tapes. Those being that the musicians really sound like they're having fun making the music, and I think that's very important when making a good album. So a similarity there. And also, of course, the fact that it's kind of a mashup of things and a large collection of songs kind of put together. So yeah, I believe some of the songs the leftover songs from this album were put onto Abbey Road as kind of the grand finale for the Beatles. Again, might be wrong about that, but yeah, I believe the kind of second half of Abbey Road is parts of songs that were left over from the White Album. So yeah, Ringo once said about this album that this was the album they really became a band again, and you know, I can completely see what he's saying there, and I completely understand that. I mean, when they were making Sgt. Pepper and creating that whole psychedelic thing through Revolver and Sgt. Pepper, they were kind of becoming disjointed in a way as a band and as friends and as musicians. In a way, I guess. And he once said that all the Beatles, at one point, all the Beatles were working on things in different studios, and it just they weren't really a band. They were just becoming more fixated with the whole all the sound effects and overdubbing. And he said that this album was the album that they became a band again, if you like. And ironically, he did leave the band for part of these sessions, I believe, and Paul McCartney had to play the drums on some of the songs. So, you know, there's a certain amount of irony there. But Ringo did say that, and I completely see what he means. So yeah, as far as favourite songs on the album, as I say, I love the variety of songs that this album gives you. I mean, Back in the USSR is a great song. Dear Prudence, While My Guitar Gently Weeps is probably my favourite song of all time. Well, sorry, not my favourite Beatles song of all time. So it would certainly be up there. And that, you know, that just proves how great George Harrison was at the end of the kind of Beatles era. I like him. I like his songs much more on the later albums. I mean, I think, you know, he produces the best songs on Abbey Road and on the White Album. I think he's just kind of coming into his own at the end of this album. Sorry, when making this album. So yeah, that's a great song. Yeah, Blues contains a great line by John Lennon. He says, "I feel so suicidal, like Dylan's Mr. Jones." And of course, you probably know Dylan's Mr. Jones is the character Dylan puts down in the song Ballad of a Thin Man, in Highway 61 Revisited. And just interesting how Lennon references that character. So that's a great song. Revolution 9, some really strange avant-garde things on here as well, like Wild Honey Pie, Revolution 9, and they've really done some interesting stuff on this album for sure. And so yeah, just really loving it, and it's an album I can see myself coming back to again and again and again. But then again, I can see myself coming back to it and listening to parts of it over and over again. I mean, there are songs I could do without on this album, and I kind of see as they were a little bit kind of fillers to kind of make this album, to draw this album out a little bit. So, you know, that's a little bit of a criticism, but I think there's only a few songs that applies to. I mean, the majority of this stuff is excellent and very pleasant to listen to. As I say, a combination of very mellow stuff and electrifying up-tempo stuff as well. So overall, yeah, I'd probably give this a 9 out of 10, high 8 to low 9. And they've done a great job in remastering it, as they have done with all the Beatles albums. What can I say? I think I'm not sure who did it. I know George Martin did one of the remasters of this album, but that might have been back in the late 90s. So I don't know who did this, but they've really brought the music back to life, and it really sounds really nice, and have to congratulate them on that. And as I said before, the packaging is very nicely done as well. They've recreated how it used to be, and you get the gatefold with the nice pictures, all glossy, which is what people want in CDs. The booklet there, the poster, just really nicely put together and nicely made. But as I say, the most important thing is how it sounds, and it sounds awesome. So yeah, definitely recommend picking this up if you're not lucky enough to have a copy on vinyl. I'll definitely be looking out for a copy on vinyl, but just haven't found one for a good enough price yet. So this is definitely a good substitution for that for the time being, and that's pretty much my first impressions. We'll be back again later today with another video. I want to do a thread response, an album discussion thread response to Jeff Cordman, as I said I would do yesterday. Until then, thanks for watching, guys, and leave me a comment maybe telling me what you think of the White Album. Is it one of your favourite Beatles albums, or is it really not up your alley? But yeah, apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later, guys.